friends. Welcome to Annie's Pink Chair, where we bring real, raw, relevant issues to the table from a woman's perspective. You know, our show is about relationships, but not only that, toxic relationships. I have a very special guest today that is just a beautiful person, and she is a firecracker. Let me tell you about my friend Nissi. Dr. Nissi Hamilton. She is a CEO of Survivor's Voice of Victory, speaker, creator, lifestyle influencer, survivor of human trafficking. Nissi Hamilton is an avid award-winning expert in the field of human trafficking, a field she comes to with 5 years of pain experience as a survivor of human and labor trafficking. With her multicultural background, Hamilton is committed to encouraging diversity and inclusion, making a difference in the decriminalization of human trafficking, poverty, and homelessness with minors. Okay, listen, Nissi, I am so happy you're here, girl. I'm just so excited. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Miss Dr. Nissi, how are you today?
I am well, Annie. How are you? I love you.
I love you too, girl.
Wish I could hug you right now.
I know. We will see each other soon, trust me. So we want to know, my audience wants to know, because I know a little enough to love you, but we want to know who Nissi is. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, God, that's such a loaded question, Annie, because I'm so used to people always asking me about the human trafficking that I forget that I'm still a person. Nissi is a global humanitarian. She is just, she's a mama bear. She has 7 children, and, you know, she rules her house with an iron fist. She is, she's a political power player. And she knows what she wants, you know, with God, because she is a kingdom lifestyle influencer. She is an industry titan in the space of human trafficking, and she doesn't play that.
Girl, so, you know, it's so wonderful how you say that about the human trafficking, because prior to that, me asking you who you are, I see that you know who you are. How did that happen? Because tell us the journey, because you got trafficked. How does someone that gets trafficked and, you know, a person that runs away and tries to live on their own and live on the street, how does that happen to create a person as you are today, the woman of God with so much influence, but not only that, a heart for those who have been trafficked?
Oh, man. You know, Annie, you know I love to talk about the Bible, but we talking about me right now, so I could go on and on and on. But yes, just thinking about my experience with human trafficking, you know, I was trafficked as a child. And what you don't realize is that children are abused in their core worlds. So that, you know, and just being a Black girl, dealing with so many symptoms of human trafficking, like adultification, there's a lot of cultural currency that adds more value to the vulnerabilities when it comes to human trafficking. It's bigger than just, you know, economics and lifestyles. It's agenda, it's coping, it's co-parenting, it's planning, it's self-actualizing, it's adjusting, and things like that. And when you are not in a place where you can just pay attention to your kid because you weren't paying attention to your kid, or you wasn't paying attention to as a child before you became a parent, a lot of those symptoms will be displayed throughout your parental style. And that's the gap that I fell into. I was 14 years old. I had aged out of foster care. My family, you know, unfortunately for them, and they made a very unhealthy decision to leave me behind, because back then in that era, Annie, it was, you know, it was about the social impact children had on the household, on the economic structure of it. Can I get a check for this child? How can I get
girl
income? Yes. Right.
It's my nerve. That's on my nerve, because that was a setup by a certain person in office of the political party.
I mean, it was. We know we
even
saw
though it helps a lot of people, but it also will hinder. Right? It will hinder.
The welfare system was a democratic solution for socialism. You know, this was back in the 60s. It was supposed to have been a collaborative effort to get, you know, citizens who were less fortunate than others back on the route of, you know, independence. And this also happened during the domestic violence era. You know, we had civil rights era back then, you know, and we also had the women's rights movement and, you know, things like that. And, you know, we had before me, you know, women like Gloria Steinem who stood up for, you know, against, you know, abuses against women and things like that. And in the 1960s, it was still okay for, you know, for a husband to beat his wife.
Right.
And then they, you know, and to just, you know, it was a political farce to make fun of it inside the courtroom where they would still have, you know, undertones of legal undertones like rule of thumb, which rule of thumb meant that your husband couldn't beat you with nothing that was bigger than or wider than his thumb.
I remember that. That's crazy. Wow. So listen, you ran away. Well, you had to be on your own when you were 14. You said you aged out. And so what happened? Where did you go?
Well, I ended up living behind Walmart on West Road on 45. And this is in Houston, Texas, guys. So just to kind of pinpoint where I'm at this particular time in life, I'm behind this Walmart. And of course, vulnerabilities increase. And when vulnerabilities increase, risk and crime increases as well. And so this is the start of my human trafficking journey. And you know, when you're saying yes to things while you're already vulnerable, it's not you saying yes, it's your vulnerability saying yes. And I think that's where people get confused at, because human trafficking is an unequal power relationship. Yes. And when you don't have control of your life and you don't have any space to operate with any type of discipline, you know, you really don't have any leverage, right? You don't have any social leverage. You don't have no social capital. Things like that, you know, you're not making an income. And at this point, you don't even know you're profitable. You're a kid. And so to be a part of anybody's economy, you would be, you know, prone to injury because you could not produce. And so, and I'm speaking like this in terms because I want to make sure that we're clear that before I was even sex trafficked, these are the signs of labor trafficking. And people, when we talk about human trafficking, they forget that labor trafficking exists. They go straight into the sexual component, which is just as important. But labor trafficking is so important that people can't even visualize the you know, or conceptualize how does it even start, and then start right there with an unequal power relationship. And so here it is. I'm going through this journey with this vulnerability. I'm couch surfing, living at different people's houses. And all of a sudden you hear, hey, you know, you can't stay here too long. If you do, you might get pregnant. So you hear this over and over and over again. And you're thinking to yourself, well, this is an easy solution, right? Get pregnant and maybe somebody will pay attention to the one vulnerability that's holding me back, which is homelessness. And that's not what happened. That vulnerability made another vulnerability and doubled the risk. It increased. It increased the problems that I was having. You
got pregnant at 14?
I got pregnant at 15. Well, yeah, okay, you know what?
Might as well be 14.
I got pregnant at 14 and had the baby at 15.
When you were 15, right.
So, yes.
Wow. Wow, yeah, that was I don't even know what you could have been feeling back then. So what did you do? Because you said the person said, well, you better leave because you're going to get pregnant. So what happened?
So I get pregnant and I'm thinking, hey, maybe this will solve some of my problems. And this would institute some type of level of permanency, because that's what I'm looking for. A permanent place to stay. And what it did was it increased that vulnerability even more. Well, literally, Annie, 15 days after being a mom, 15 days, I'm sued by my own state because I'm a mom and I'm homeless. I got nowhere to take my baby. I got nowhere to live. I have no running water, no AC, no stove, nowhere to put the food. I can get the food, nowhere to put the food. And that became a problem. And instead of being put back into conservatorship by my state, me and my child, we were treated like adults, like independent adults at 15 years old. Which that was the third vulnerability.
Yeah, and that's crazy. So then obviously you're not a lazy person. So you were probably freaking out. How do I take care of my child? What happened to where you got pulled into the sex industry?
Well, the judge laid out some stipulations for me in order for me to keep my kid, because clearly I did not want my rights to be terminated. And 3 of those stipulations I remember was that I had to get a GED, I had to find somewhere to stay, and I had to have a bank account. I didn't necessarily have to have a job. That was not a requirement, but I had to make deposits into an account where that they could see, that I could be fiscally responsible for my kid. And at 15, now turning 16, that is a huge adjustment on somebody who still hasn't experienced freedom. Still, for somebody who's never experienced living on their own besides homelessness. And still, somebody who's never experienced having a support system. So my first time being introduced to a support system was a system that was made to tear down and to crucify, to criminalize something that was already happening to me. And then they justified what they were doing to me through my vulnerability by making me a criminal when I really just needed help because I was a homeless teenager.
Girl, you were a child. You were a child.
I was a child.
I'm going to cry. I'm getting angry for your situation, even though it's gone now. But, and girl, so then you went, someone offered you a job, right? And you were like, yeah, I'll take it.
Me a job. So what happened was I take this vulnerability. So I'm 3 vulnerabilities, right? And let's just make this about vulnerabilities versus making this about people. Because I want to be, like I said, I want to be clear that we understand how I got here. So I have 3 vulnerabilities going on. And now a temporary solution, which a lot of people go to when they're in a situation like that, is church. I go to church. I tell the church what's going on. The suggestion is, hey, why don't you hook up with girls that are around your age, that are, predominantly mature, and that could help you navigate through this pain system. So I said, okay, no problem. I'll hook up with a girl from church around my age. And her suggestion to me was, hey, I have an ID. I'm 18. I work at a strip club. And I'm like, wait, what? You work at a strip club? Yes. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just waitressing. Maybe you can use my ID, work at another strip club, and make money the same way I do. I mean, it was problem, strategy, solution. I mean, it was really just that simple. I got this problem, these 3 vulnerabilities. I have to make up for each one of them, or I'm gonna, have my rights terminated and I probably will never see my kid again. Or take her suggestion, which is the only suggestion and the only solution for my current situation right now. Because I need money getting into that bank account, which was a stipulation of the judge, right away. I need to make this happen right away.
So you started working at the strip club. And
I started working at the strip club. I'm
just waitressing.
Just waitressing. Her boyfriend's keeping my baby. And this is where things get tricky.
Girl, exploiting your child. Exploiting your child. Your child was first exploited.
Right. And I love how you said that and you really, pinpoint that out and it wasn't that the child was exploited. It was just that the vulnerabilities, because I had those 3 top vulnerabilities, they were exploited through my kid.
Right.
Using my kid. And so what happened was that particular guy who was her boyfriend, but also her pimp, and unbeknownst to me,
of course,
I'm making about $75 a night. I'm thinking that's pretty good. I'm new to the hospitality industry. This is not something that I'm used to. And he tells me one day, you can't get your kid back unless you make me $200 a day. Now I have 4 vulnerabilities that are in front of me. I'm homeless. I'm sued by the state. The judge gave me requirements. And now this man is keeping my kid away from me unless I give him $200 a day. Now watch this. I can't go tell the judge. Because if I tell the judge, it increases the criminality and the risk factor that they've already given me.
Right. You'll never get your kid back then. Never.
Right, exactly. They've exposed my vulnerabilities. They didn't reduce them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already sued. I have no attorney. There is no one legally giving me any advice that would help me mitigate through my vulnerabilities. And I'm still homeless.
Wow.
Recipe for disaster.
So obviously you got into a storm, a sort of like a quicksand storm where you couldn't get out of it.
Absolutely. He knew I couldn't tell the judge. He knew that he knew that everything would backfire on me. It was my responsibility, and that I was still fiscally responsible for my kid. And it was double pay, because really it was like, I had to pay him $200 and I had to, make enough money to put into my account to show the judge that I was, like I said, responsible.
Right. And so obviously waitressing is not going to get you $200 unless you work at a really high end place. I mean, maybe nowadays it could. So you had to start doing things that were probably not in your best interest.
Absolutely.
And, that's just, dude, I want to talk about your child, because I saw you and your husband and your child get up there and talk about him calling you. So obviously you got trafficked, right? And how long were you in that with that? Was it that pimp or was it another trafficker that you were under the thumb of?
I switched traffickers. So that trafficker was making so much money off of me, and, vulnerabilities were exposed, right? They were exposed in the strip club, and they were exposed amongst, and talked about amongst the strippers there. And, here comes another solution, but through a pimp. And that solution is, hey, you come with me, you can have a better life. And basically, because it was a solution, not necessarily an option. I had an option, which was to stay where I was at. The solution was that, I didn't have to work as hard, and that lifestyle wouldn't be so damaging. And I didn't have to run a risk of not seeing my kid or my kid being held hostage because I'm in debt bondage.
Right.
Right. And so I take the option with the less amount of resistance.
And he called you from the car. Right? He called you from the car. Tell me what happened with that. We got about 2.5 minutes for that story, and then we got to wrap on the 5.
Oh God! So we were actually in the club. And he calls me, in the club, and he tells me, hey, and I know what part you're talking about. He tells me, hey, come be with me. I can provide you a better life. And what happens is, to speed the story up, is I begin to live with this guy, and I could get my hair done by him. I didn't have to go to the strip club. I could get my nails done, no strip club, baby formula, baby bottles, no strip club. And my life is at peace. There is some type of balance happening for me. And then all of a sudden it became, I can't get your hair done. I need you to go to work. I can't get your nails done. I need you to go to work. I can't buy baby formula and diapers anymore. I need you to go to work. And because I think I'm in a relationship with this guy, I start negotiating what I think he can do instead to make money. And that's not what happens. So you got barrier testing and erosion. How can I convince you that we're in a relationship? Because you need relationships to get girls, right? Boys are more visual concepts. And I'm going to reel you in, get you in a place where you're most comfortable. Then I betray you. And the part Annie's talking about is the actual betrayal. I get in the
Right.
car with this guy who I think is my boyfriend at this point. He takes me to a hotel that's on the north side of town. He gives me a key and he tells me, with the gun in his hand, when I come out this room, you better come out with all of my money. And it was it. My ego left. My inspiration left. Everything I thought about myself left. Everything died in me. And that new result was going to be, Nissi, you need to make sure you stay alive so you could be a mom for the kid who was almost just, taken away from you, not even by the court at this particular time, but by this guy who's labor trafficking you. And then the second component is the court, because I still can't tell them that any of this is even happening, or I'm going to be a criminal forever in their eyes.
Wow. But I remember you shared that your son called you and he said, I want you to come get me. We got 5 minutes left, girl.
I know. And to speed the story up, as time went on, and now I'm being sex trafficked, and as I'm being trafficked. Back in the day when you were trafficked, guys, if you had a condom, you would get paid less money, or you would be charged less money rather. If you didn't use a condom, you would make most of your money. And so most of the Johns that are being traded to, they preferred no condom. And so because that was an option for them, not for me, but for them, a pregnancy happens. So as time is going on and the court case is going on, I turn 16, I get pregnant with, during the duration of this court case. And I have Chris, which is my second baby, the one that you met.
Yes.
And, it was tough because, back then getting an abortion was, clearly it was an option. But for me, in my personal choice, it was not an option. And I think everybody started crying when I was on the stage with Chris and I said he was the best decision that I ever made in my life. And I want to cry now and think about that, because he is. I'm so glad I made that decision. I just think that people don't associate children with human trafficking, and they don't understand that part that it plays when you do have children with your abusers, and how to move on with that and what that healing journey looks like. And I remember just because of that lawsuit, as I got older and my pimps couldn't make money off of me anymore, they sued me for my children. And one of the things that they used was what I went through when I was a teenager. And they used that to validate my character as an adult. And that wasn't even who I was. And they used that to get my children. So I became the first case in the state of Texas where I was sued for child support by the men who had been trafficking me. And because they had not been penalized in criminal court for the trafficking, the judge released my children to my traffickers. Wow. And I remember my son was trying to get away. He was trying to run away, and he was with the trafficker, and he ran away from the trafficker, and he ran away to a particular part in Houston where there was some train tracks, and he stole somebody's phone, a person who was trying to get him to me where I was at. And at that time, I could not be around my children. And because of the court, they said I couldn't be around my children, and that I was a danger to my children. And my son called me on the phone and he goes, "Mom, I miss you. Where are you? Can you come get me? I love you." And I said, "I want to come get you. I do love you. Mama can't come get you right now, but I promise you, I'm going to figure it out." And it took me 7 years, Annie, 7 years to get all of my children back. And I can firmly say, by the grace of God, that I have all of my children. As of September the 11th of 2020, I got all my babies back.
Jesus, girl. I'm crying right now. I'm so happy that your kids are safe and you're doing what you're doing, Nissi. We have to have you come back on. I want you to tell people how they can get a hold of you. What is your website? Is it A Survivor's Voice of Victory? What?
No,
it's
actually www.NissiHamilton.com. That's it. So www.NissiHamilton.com. Just look me up there. You can always Google me, hear more of the story and things like that. And guys, and guess what? This is just part one of the story, you guys. There's so much to talk about.
Of
Las
course.
Vegas. I really thank you for receiving me, and thank you so much, Annie, for letting me come on your show.
You are such an amazing warrior and just entrepreneur, woman of God. And I really honor you, Nissi, and your journey. And I just want to just say, oh gosh, if I would have known you, we probably would have caused some trouble together. But you're so inspiring, and I just want to commend you for not having abortions, because those kids are future presidents, ministers, and everything you can put underneath that, whatever that is. I mean, they have a right to have their lives, and you made sure that happened. And that makes you just a mighty hero in my eyes, and so many more people as well. And we love you. And again, we can get a hold of you on your website, but then you're on Instagram and you're on Facebook, right?
Twitter and Facebook. Okay. Yes.
Yep. So
on Twitter at Hamilton Nissi, and Facebook just Nissi Hamilton, and Instagram @the_real_Nissi Hamilton.
All right, girl. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap, and we love you, and we just want to thank you for coming on the show today. And yes, there will be a part 2. All right, girl. We'll see you soon. Okay.
Okay. I love you so much. Thanks, Annie.
You too. You're welcome. Hi, friends. I want to talk about our nonprofit today. It's called Destiny House, and it's a place where ladies that have been in the sex industry, ladies that have been sex trafficked, can come and live and recover from their lifestyle. Basically, it's this: to dream, discover, develop into the perfect destiny that God has for them. It's 9 to 24 months, and we're so excited because we're actually going to be opening up our second home called Dream House. And this place is a place where ladies can come after the first program, and it's more independent living, where they'll have their jobs and their schooling that they're doing, and they can become more successful, because we know that trauma and complex trauma is real. That's why I want to ask you today to please consider to partner with us, because most, if not all, of these ladies come to our program and they're completely broken. They've got heavy complex trauma, which comes with so many different issues and comorbidities that they need help just to get stabilized and to get their mind and their heart right, and to get healing from that deep trauma. And we have great programs. We have trauma therapy, and the ladies go to addiction classes and life skill classes, and also equine therapy. And they like to do arts and crafts, and it's just a very well holistic, trauma-informed, well-rounded program that when these ladies come, they definitely get their healing, and they get a brand new start and a brand new life of promise, hope, and a great future. Please partner with us. If it's on your heart, we need to keep our houses open. You can go to pinkchair.com and click on donate, and your donation is tax deductible. Thank you, everyone.